I just found out there's a hurricane coming, so we're going to go ahead and check the boat, see if there's anything we need to button down, maybe clean some stuff up on the deck. You know, some of this stuff, I know we got like the bean bag here, so just make sure everything's situated so when we get some high winds, we're not going to have any problems. So this is always something super important, though. If you have a boat and you're in an area where you get storms, you know, you definitely want to make sure that nothing's going to go flying. I can show you. There was a video I did where I had this beanbag actually went floating down the intercoastal during a storm because it was actually sitting up on the tower. So it was up there just kind of hanging out. We tucked it off to the side, but I underestimated the strength of the storm and the strength of how much wind we were actually going to get. So now learning that, I'm going to do some things differently this time. So before I get to that, I'm going to check and make sure that all my bilges are working. Both the switches are working, and then also that the that one continued to stay or continue to run. So then also that make sure that the pumps themselves are working. So I went ahead and turned all of them on. I am getting power to each switch. Looks like that one is still running based on the float switch. It just shut off, so I'll look at the middle bilge and make sure I don't have too much water in there. I just noticed that my VHF radio here is not actually turning on, so we're going to jump down into the cabin and see if we can figure out what's going on with that. Hey guys, if you get anything from this video, do me a favor, give me that like and thumbs up on the screen there. So if you guys have ever worked on a boat before, you know there's always projects going on. There's always something that needs to be worked on and needs to get updated. So I'll show you a couple projects that I have right now. I'm actually working on the air conditioner unit. All right, so this originally is what I think the issue is going to be. So I noticed this nut was not on there very hard or very tight, but this is the it's like an overload switch to make sure it doesn't overload the system. All right, so what this little sensor does is when it gets too hot on the top of the compressor, it pops, sending basically an overload to the circuit. So that way it kills the compressor and turns it off. So this should be closed at all times. So I should be able to get a connection of 0.1, so which is not what I wanted. I was hoping that this was going to be the problem, and then I could just replace this little $30 part and move on. But of course, if anyone has ever worked on a boat, you guys know that nothing is ever easy, so it can't just be a simple little part. So back to the drawing board on that one. So we'll keep you guys posted. If you got any ideas what it might be outside of that, definitely let me know in the comments. The compressor has basically stopped working. It runs for about a second, does a and then turns off. No codes on the display. So kind of curious if anyone has any ideas. So from this line we should have power. However, let's see what we got. We should get at least 13 volts. That's what the battery's at. We have nothing. Okay, so now we at least know that there's nothing coming to the radio, so that most likely rules out the radio as being part of the problem. So now we're going to trace it back, and we're going to go back to where the breaker is or the fuse and check it from there. All right, so this is actually the fuse block that holds everything that we need for the VHF radio. So we're going to check on the hot side and see. We do have 13.16 on there, and we have 13.16 on the actual fuse. So the fuse is good, the wire is good, the connection is fine. So we're gonna have to trace it. Maybe we have a short. So we have a short somewhere between the fuse and the actual connection of the radio. So we're gonna have to check that wire all the way down the line. So now I found another connection. So this one is going to the negative. This is my meter here. I'm just going to set this up here so that we can see, keep it on voltage. So here is my red lead, and I found a connection. So this wire is actually double wire that was going to the unit. And when I came down, I noticed that there's a splice, and it gets spliced into this one here, and it says underwater lights, which up there it said underwater lights as well. So, but I'm going to check this because that part doesn't make sense why we did that or why that was done. So we're gonna cut that. Put a meter on that now, and we'll check. Hopefully you guys can see that. We will check that connection, and we have no power. So no power to the positive there. Yeah, that's very odd. So we're going to try something different here. So bear with me. I'm going to get my power probe. All right, so what we're going to do here with the power probe is, and if you've never used one of these, definitely recommend getting one. We're going to throw power to this. I have the probe connected downstairs from the unit. Oh, there we go. So now I can see I have power to the actual unit, and it is on. So now I know that it is not the unit that is the problem. Oh. All right, so I was able to confirm it's not the unit. So I definitely have a wire connection issue, which means most likely instead of running back through and checking all the wires and pulling the harness, I'm probably just going to run and pull a new wire to something that I know is power, put it back on that breaker, because I know I have a good connection at the fuse, and I know that I have a working radio. So I'm going to run a completely clean wire to ground, and then also back to that fuse, and that will eliminate that problem and fix the VHF radio. All right, so I'm gonna get all this stuff buttoned up, put all the meters away, run the new wire. So now that I know I have power at the fuse, and I know that the machine works, it's a very simple run. The wire comes in right behind this this high water alarm, basically runs down, comes across, and just goes straight up. So it's a very simple run to do. I'm gonna go ahead and do that at another time because of, like I said, we are getting a hurricane, and I feel like the VHF radio is not exactly a huge priority because the boat's going to be at the dock. So with that being said, if you haven't seen one of my other videos about VHF radios, I do have redundant radios. So I have one more up in the tower that has a second station over here, and then I also keep a handheld. So having that fixed one really is not a huge priority when I have two others that I can always use. All right, so with that said, so I'm going to check and make sure that all of the bilges are correct and there's no issues. Looks like this one's nice and dry. I pulled the float switch to make sure that it did work, but definitely, when you have a hurricane coming, you want to inspect these, make sure that your bilge is clean. There's nothing in the bilge that will actually clog the pump, because a lot of times the pump might be working, however the bilge itself is clogged, or the connection, or the piece that will allow it to pump water is actually clogged. So definitely make sure you check those out. We're going to check the other two on the boat now. So on this boat we have one in the front, one all the way in the back, and then one in the middle. So let me move this big cushion out of the way. We because of the hurricane, we removed the cushion from the bow of the boat, and we're just kind of getting it out of the way, so just in case it gets a little windy, we don't want it taken off. Right there in the center below the steps, there's actually about an inch or two of water, which to be honest is quite normal for this vessel. So I'm not worried about that, but I do want to make sure that it pumps, which I can hear it actually running out of the boat now, and I can see the water move, and I can actually see it coming out. So I can definitely see the water level dropping, so which is good. So that's what I wanted to know. I wanted to make sure that the water level is dropping, the pump is actually working the way it's designed. All right, and then lastly, this is the pump for the stern of the boat. So that looks like completely dry down there, which is nice. I already ran the pump to make sure that there were no issues. I do see, however, a drip right on the side. So I'm going to go down there and check that out, because I want to make sure that that drip is not the start of an actual issue. Definitely don't want water backfilling in through the hose that goes out of the water or out of the boat. So I want to make sure that we we get that tightened up if there's a little bit of a leak or some type of issue before a storm. Last thing I want is the pump to be running and then water not evacuating the boat. It actually just pumps and stays where it's at. So we're gonna go down there and check that, make sure we get that fixed. So definitely though, if you're got a storm coming, you're preparing for a storm, hurricane, you just have high winds, honestly, this is something you should do maybe every 6 months on your boat, even if you don't live in a hurricane area. But check your boats, check your bilges, check your power, make sure everything is working, avoid a catastrophe. If you want to learn more about tips and tricks for your boat, I've got a video that's on the screen right now about VHFs, and it definitely has some good information that you might find interesting.